It's time for EdTech Mondays, brought to you by Mastercard Foundation and CC Hub.
Hello and welcome to EdTech Mondays. EdTech Mondays is a platform that facilitates conversations on the role of technology in teaching and learning to shape the future of education in Nigeria. I am Damilola Busari, and I'll be steering today's conversation. This month, we're exploring the theme Rethinking Inclusive and Accessible Learning for All. In the last two episodes, we explored two key questions. First, what are the living realities and accessible barriers that learners with disability are faced with? We saw that persons with disability use technology needs for their lifestyle and for learning. Then we asked if EdTech innovations are intentionally designed to be accessible for persons with disabilities. We heard from EdTech innovators how they are designing innovatively to diagnose and support learners with special needs to learn. If you missed the first two episodes, please check them out on CC Hub Africa's YouTube channel and Spotify EdTech Mondays Nigeria. Today, we take the conversation further. What affordable interventions can be offered to learners with disabilities? Of course, I have a stunning lineup of guests to take the conversation with me. Please welcome Tonye Falugi Ekezie, founder and CEO, Simon's Oasis Foundation; Chimezie Ucheaga, founder, Mavis Computel; Dr. Victor Ogumbi, CEO of Dawn AI Study; Chizoba Orji, a visually impaired teacher at Washington Memorial Grammar School, Onitsha; and Mubarak Aremu, convener of Accessibility. Let's get right into it. Now, one of the things that was highlighted in a past episode is the issue of affordability. Tony, I'm going to bring this to you. What low-cost or low-tech interventions can significantly improve access for learners with disabilities?
Let's assume they have a phone. Because that's the assumption.
That's the first
The first thing is that how affordable the smartphone, right? Or the tablet, number one. Okay, so let's assume they've even been able to reach that level. Now, the software that is on there, or the apps. So the parents really have to engage either with community support systems, which they have, and that's another kind of barrier right there, right? The person has to be willing to even talk about what's going on with their child. So there's so many nuanced things that get us to the point of where we're engaging with technology that has to be built first. So the shame has to be gone, the stigma has to be gone for you to speak up to. It's not always your family, could be friends, someone in church, I don't know. And you engage with them and you find out, hey, because you've seen them with their child, oh, your child is doing well. What are you doing with your child? I get that all the time, right? Because people see my daughter, they see her online, and they're like, wait, how come she's doing this? What are you doing? And they're surprised when I'm finding a lot of free tools or subscribing to the free things, because I run an NGO, which means I'm not flush with cash. But for example, a good example of something that we use that I've recommended is Gemini. Gemini is really expensive, right? If you go on there, it's about $60 a month. However, they have inbuilt it so that you can apply for what you can afford, right?
Nice.
So if you can afford $20 a month, if you can afford only $0, you get 0. So you kind of apply for what kind of level of scholarship you'll get for your child. And so my daughter has been using that tool since about 2021. It supports her learning through visuals, right? Audio visuals on short loops, videos that range from like 1 minute to 6 minutes that she watches 3 times a day, every day of the week, to reinforce concepts. That is just an example that I can say, because from my experience, I've learned I can share with others that are free. Obviously, there's channels on YouTube and things like that, but the problem is time. How many parents have the time to be scrolling and finding and looking? and you have other children. So I think it's really important what is being developed at home, specifically for our market, specifically for our needs and our environment, so that people don't have to put the amount of time I had to find some of these tools to engage with my daughter. I'm still doing it. I'm still going to different sites all over the world, printing things, downloading things, working with her. But we use probably about 10 different apps. If we could have something consolidated.
And aggregated
solutions, it would be, my life.
It definitely is going to take some load off your shoulders.
So I'm actually living it. It's not just I'm speaking on behalf of others. Now, again, I'll say again, I'm a mom from a privileged background, right? I always think about those we support who are not. How can I support them? They're still thinking about, I have to go and see an endocrinologist. I have to go and try and get my child heart saving surgery. Their mind may not necessarily be on these things, but they're aware that these things are coming. So how can we shorten that time for them, right? It's all about streamlining for efficiency also.
Thank you for sharing what you've worked with and used. The Gemini you mentioned, is that the same Gemini that we all use now and play around with?
Good
okay.
Question. No. Very not. I don't like that Gemini. But the Gemini is two eyes. Yeah. See, he's already on it. Because he would have had to research what was actively being used and popular. It's extremely popular. And they've been coming into our Nigerian space because obviously there's a demand for it, but the affordability was the issue.
Wow. Thank you very much for sharing that. I'm going to go to you now, Mubarak. How prepared are teachers to deliver inclusive digital instruction using assistive technology? You have 2 degrees. Were your lecturers ready to help in other ways, people with disabilities?
I think we still kind of far behind because of the awareness. There is not enough awareness in place. And even those people that are trying to bring the awareness closer to us, they are not having, or let me say, they are not using the right channel. I would like to share a story related to that, which is my experience of recent. So, which can tell us how much we are still in lack of awareness. So recently, I had the privilege to be part of team hosted by Afritech Unilag with other African universities. In this platform, we were put into groups and we were told to come up with idea or solutions on assistive devices or innovation for person with disability. So my team, it was like a pitching. So my team, we were able to come up with an app that could make learning easier. It is a learning-based app. In fact, I have it currently on my phone. The app is called Access Learn. So it is AI-powered for learners. So along the line, when we want to start creating this app, we need to involve different person with disability. Though we have visually impaired among us, I'm a physical person, I'm physical challenged person, a wheelchair user. So we need to also involve hearing impaired person and neurodivergent person, somebody dealing with cognitive impairment. So along the line, we were able to come up with this app with the opportunity of we having this set of people put together, and as well as we add mentors. So these mentors, they are people that they are already aware of 1 or 2 things about person with disability. But in as much as they are aware, they are not, they cannot solve our problem for us. Just like the saying that it is about the, people, not about those creating the app, or not about person that has the idea. It's about those people that is facing the challenges themselves. So along the line, I notice that most of them, they are still in the pace of they need to listen to us, just like one of us said the other time. Listening is very important. So we had couple of meetings after meetings before we can later conclude on what to do and what to pitch on. So after that, this app I'm talking about features different functions. We have different languages. It can transcribe text into audio, documents into audios, and we have quizzes in this app, as well as gesture. We have sign language also infused in the app. So, and we could deliver this app within a month with prototype tested and everything. So I believe when educators are involved in creating anything, it will make smooth run of everything for a person with disability. So, and I can say that accessibility is not just something we need to seek for. It is not a privilege. It is our right. Because whenever we are talking about inclusion, accessibility should follow. As a person with disability, if I'm to get to any location, there should be a means of transportation. If I'm to enter a public building or anywhere, any space, bank, hospitals, school, there should be a ramp. All these things are part of the things that I think educators or policymakers or the government need to put in place for lecturers, for teachers, or for caregivers for persons with disability. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for your response, Mubarak, and sharing, of course, the practical example with building your own solution. I'm going to come to you now, Chizoba. You are a teacher. What do you think, what professional development models would work best for building inclusive teaching skills?
In order to get a professional model for this, I will encourage seminars, trainings, because for a teacher to bridge the gap between a person with disability and the teacher in the class have to learn the assistive technology the person with disability is using, because you cannot access it even as a teacher. If you don't know how to access it, you cannot help that child, students of yours that is using that. In order to bridge this gap, the best thing to do is to set up a training for most of our teachers in this country in order to make our education system inclusive. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So teacher training is definitely important. They can't deploy tools to students that they themselves have no experience using. I'm going to come to you, Chimezie. Beyond building products, what models do you think are needed to improve distribution, maintenance, and long-term adoption of assistive technology?
So I think it's a combination of a number of factors. And first of all, it is what we've always been seeing come across now in terms of building with them in building with people with disability in mind, right? When you build something that it's easy for them to work with, I'll just come from a slightly different angle. Apart from building solutions that are entirely for them, just like Mubarak mentioned in terms of the walkways, or I mean, in terms of like ramps for schools, with respect to digital tools now, we make sure that any product we're putting out there has, in quotes, digital ramps. So if we're talking about physical ramps in schools, it means that any regular, apart from the ones that are built just for people with disability, any regular one that is being built has that thought in it in terms of how they're building for how we're building for these learners. It makes once adoption is easy, distribution becomes a bit easier. So once the regular tools that we're building have that in mind, then adoption becomes easier for people living with disability. It's just like what one of the things we saw today in terms of ATM cards being produced now with like dents, specific dents, like chipped cards, so that it's easy for people to identify, for people with, visual impairment to know which card they want to select, for example. So building with them in mind always would make it easy for them to distribute. That's number one. Number two, um, collaboration instead of just working in silos. If it is possible that different edtech companies are not afraid of, like, if there's some sort of central repository where an edtech solution, we are an edtech solution, we've registered, and part of the what we're filling in that repository is, okay, what is our own method of inclusivity? We put it there. Other founders, what are their methods of inclusivity? We put it there. Different people, when it is a normal discourse in terms of the education technology space as to, okay, who are you, which demography are you serving? It makes it easy for government agencies, funders, people like that want to make edtech products accessible or subsidize the costs for people living with disability to know the ones that they are working with, instead of every time they're starting from the beginning to make calls for people to bring in submissions. They're checking these things over and over again. When we think about collaboration, so if I'm helping people with neurodivergence or cognitive problems, and somebody else is helping people with visual impairment, I know that, okay, if I'm already in this program and these guys have seen that, oh, this is something good for people with disability, then when they say, okay, we need one for people with, I mean, in terms of visual impairment, I'm not saying, okay, let me go and create it. Okay, you guys know me, let me go and create it. I'm saying, who are those people that are also doing this? So collaboration is very, very important for these things to work. The third one is what you guys are already doing now: advocacy. Without advocacy, you don't bring advocacy is one of the tools that brings those that have the ability to make distribution possible, and those who have the tools, bringing them together in the same room. Advocacy and conferences are one very good way of doing this. Then the final one that I will mention is scalability. For people that are building these kinds of products, one of the reasons why I always advocate for the fact that it is good for us entrepreneurs who are serving the regular market to also think disability inclusion is because we already think scale. For people who build just for these ones, they would always depend on, to a large extent, they would always depend on sponsorship because those who need it cannot afford it. But if the regular people who are building the regular products, if the Duolingos of this world, if the Khan Academies of this world are thinking inclusivity, then it means some simple things they include that are already making what they're doing free will make it very accessible. Imagine if, Google as a system decide to make their OS more disability friendly, for example. Some of these things, what happens is that it means that as phones get cheaper, disability inclusion becomes easier. So one of the easiest ways I see for distribution to expand is that beyond just producing tools just for them and thinking that you have to just use it for them, people who develop regular products for the mass market, when they think inclusivity, then as they scale, reach to people with disability would also scale. So the way we do ours, for example, I'll just give a very quick example, is that although because our product has audio, when you use the pen to tap on the book, the pen talks. Now, if we have visually impaired people in the class, the teacher professional development training platform we already have is geared to teach these teachers that they teach the children to talk among themselves so that the person who is visually impaired among them is learning as the other ones are learning. I don't know if you get the point. So instead of saying, okay, we are creating a separate product, those who are visually impaired go to class A to use, you find out that they can. So inclusivity is not only making products for them, but making it possible for them to learn alongside other people. And when you start thinking that way as well, scalability, maintenance, sustainability becomes easier. So that's the angle that for me as a founder, so you look at it in different ways, but as a founder, that's the way we tackle it. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Chimezie, for sharing your thoughts on that. And you've even gotten us into where I'd like us to land today's conversation, talking about collaborations and partnerships. And Victor, I want you to weigh in on this. How can collaborations and partnerships play a role in scaling access, especially to underserved communities? Because affordability is a key issue, and underserved communities have the majority of the populace of people living with disability.
Okay, so I'll say, there's an adage that says, Rome wasn't built in a day. So if we were to build for the PWD community, whether it's a physical disability or cognitive disability, we have to understand that role-based ecosystem, right, is really important. Take for example now, there's no way you would want to, whether you talk about distribution, right?
Yes, earlier on with Chimezie.
Good. And my question?
No, your question is just about helping us to serve underserved communities.
Good. Now look at people in marginalized and reserved community and the likes, right? Or IDP camps. Or a community can be even undeserved based on the fact that they don't even have electricity. They're undeserved. Or the parents living in that community, they're averagely earned parents, they're still undeserved. So how do we deploy these maybe solutions to that, to those kind of communities? Well, I would say working with key stakeholders is quite important. That's where government comes into play. Government, NGOs. There is a program by Education Trust Fund, it's an arm under UNICEF, to integrate out-of-school kids back to school. So they called out consortiums, people like us, people building tech products like us, with NGOs, with government, we came together just to ensure that those people, imagine, all those Ibejuleki, all those inner places that you see that in the community, it's just one school. And that school, are they even inclusive or are they accessible to kids with disability? No. So there's a situation where role-based play, or I'll say stakeholder, comes into play. And also, you see some undeserved community that there might be just one, not hospital, maybe wellness center or pharmacies that will just be there. Those kind of people too. Some families will take their kids there. A child that doesn't have a wheelchair, can that child go to school? So there will be some places where they go to those pharmacies. We should be able to work with those pharmacists, train them as well. Okay, this is where this family come to you. This is how you should approach this scenario. I have a friend, she's in South Africa, and my decks. What they do is they use eco-friendly products, right, to create kind of movable decks for kids. So if you're a kid under the spectrum, whether cognitive spectrum or physical disability, you can learn from home. And while you're learning from home, what we plan to do with them is to plug in our own tech into their the MyDex. So imagine a child that is at home, right, in an undeserved community. There's limited school. Even teachers, you talk about teachers. Teachers are far away from inclusion. As if you ask me that question, they are far away from the go, so they're not even trained at all. So you see some teachers in this undeserved community, they lack training, they lack the right tools. Imagine a child that's just at home, stay-at-home mom or start-up child because of one disability or the other. How will that child learn if we don't provide a solution? So a role-based stakeholder cases is quite important. We have to work with the government, we have to work with NGOs, we have to work with healthcare practitioners. There's not how you build for disability that you won't venture into healthcare, because this child becomes a teenager, becomes an adult. If you fail to solve this problem or this spectrum, help them from the grassroots, they become an adult that is stigmatized, and he or she can even end up unaliving themselves. So it's not just a K-12 educational play thing right here. It's a lifelong commitment to them. So So that's my approach to it.
So it's a multi-level approach
Yeah,
with
exactly.
all the stakeholders involved,
Exactly.
government, teachers,
Exactly.
families, everybody has a
Exactly.
role to play in making this happen. Thanks a lot for sharing your thoughts. We'll be wrapping up on that note. As we heard from our guests, the best assistive technology solutions will have limited impact if teachers are not prepared to use them, and if schools cannot afford them, or if distribution and support systems are weak. Remember, you can continue this conversation on our WhatsApp and Telegram channels, EdTech Mondays Nigeria. You can also share your thoughts with us on social media or via SMS or WhatsApp on 0703 165 0809, or you can give us a call on 0706 402 0742. Don't forget, past episodes are available on our YouTube channel, CC Hub Africa, and of course, Spotify, EdTech Mondays Nigeria. Your feedback will help shape the conversations that we host and the policy advocacy that we have. Until the next episode, I am Damilola Busari. Bye for now.
Tech Mondays, brought to you by MasterCard Foundation and CC Hub.